Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Not sure why I laughed then. But let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from Temp Throwaway from the True Off My Chest subreddit that says, I broke my wife and I don't think it is fixable. This happened 6 months ago. And I only chose to talk now because I don't see improvement in sight and I am hopeless. We were at a party. My friend is single and we started talking about love and relationships. My wife and I have been happily married for 7 years. We have 3 beautiful children. She is the love of my life. When I was talking to my friend, I felt like we were on different levels of thinking. His complaints are mostly superficial about how the people he dated looked. I was a bit drunk at that point and said something like, you don't fall in love with looks. Look at me and my wife. I love her more than anything compared to my ex who was just looks. Everyone went silent and my damage control was worse, so I ended up shutting the hell up. I couldn't get my point across, but even I thought that maybe these thoughts have been in my head but only came out when I was drunk. My wife was shocked. First week she was so angry and wanted to understand what I meant, and nothing I said was good enough. I was drunk. I love her. I think she's the most beautiful woman. She thought being drunk made me say my true feelings. Then one morning she just said, you know, I've never felt as ugly as I have this past week. I've always thought I am beautiful. She didn't cry this time, but she hasn't been happy since. I started crying and apologizing, but she was like emotionless. It was the last time she looked at me too. She is taciturn and distant, but only with me. She has lost 20 pounds and she works out 6 to 7 days a week. She never has free time with me. If she's not with her children or her family and friends, she's immersed in some book or has her headphones on. She's always fully clothed now, even in bed. She locks the bathroom door when she takes a shower. She's more active on social media too. She shares many pictures of her and she thanks everyone who gives her a compliment. Before, it was just pictures with our children and pets, but now it's her. Working out in sports bras and tights. I broke her and I don't know how to fix it. So a commenter asks OP, Snickers says, you say your damage control was worse. What else did you say that night and how long did you do it for? OP says my friend and wife and my wife's friend and husband were very silent. And I started saying that I didn't mean that my wife wasn't good looking. I just meant I loved her for other things. And even worse, I said that sometimes you're very attracted to someone and everything is a whirlwind with them. You have nothing in common and see no future. I probably alluded that I used my brain and not my dick when looking for a relationship. I thought it was a logical way of thinking, but for her, I think she would have preferred that whirlwind and passion. I haven't read all comments, this is the first one I read, that asked to explain the damage control. Lady Boopy Boop says, yeah. Knowing what he said for damage control is necessary because that error would have been so easy to fix. Oh god no, what I meant was my wife has more than good looks, which is why our marriage works. She's more than her pretty face. So I can only imagine what he spewed to make it this bad. Beneficial Syrup also replies saying the fact that everybody has asked him and he hasn't said, I'm gonna guess it was bad. Even too bad for the batshit insanity of Reddit. Cassiopeia says she didn't cry this time. That says a lot. Opportunity Calm says indifference is worse than being emotional. She's done with him. And to me in this, whatever was said on top of what OP has told us so far, it sounds like she's checked out of this relationship. And the comments like she didn't cry this time was a bit of a red flag. I never understand though how people continue to dig themselves into holes once they've said something stupid. But just under a month later, OP comes in with an update and says, we've been going to counselling and my wife at first has been very reluctant to open up and wanted to pretend that everything was fine. One session, she just asked me, I want the truth, here and now. No sugarcoating and do not try to spare my feelings. Did you find me attractive when we met? I really didn't know what to say to this. I love her more than anything, even more than my children and myself. I think that she's the most beautiful woman I know, but did I immediately think that when I met her? No. I didn't really find her attractive. We all grow up having a type. I remember thinking that she wasn't exactly my type, but she was so lovable and sweet. It didn't take me long to fall for her, and now I find women who look like her attractive, so I guess type is something very superficial and fleeting. I told her the truth. She cried and said that she herself didn't know why she was so hurt and crying. She knew that there were more beautiful women. She never wanted to be the most beautiful woman either, but that she had always been considered beautiful by other people, which is true, and always got attention. But the fact that the one person she wanted to be found the most beautiful girl in the world by didn't think that. And that's what made her sad. The man she loved way before we even started dating. This was our last session, and it was the most draining experience. Later, we got home and she apologized for making a big deal out of something this trivial. But that she just couldn't help it, and she was as confused to why it affected her so badly. On Saturday, she told me that she didn't want to stay in our marriage, that something broke inside of her. She asked me if I would try to hurt her and the children if we did separate, if I would use them to get back at her, alienate her because she chose to leave. I promised her that none of this would happen and that I loved her and I wanted her to be happy, even if it wasn't with me. Our families are in uproar over this. Mostly they are angry with her, that she let her insecurities get the best and worst of her. But I don't think it is an insecurity, to be honest. She's never cared about people's attention. She just realized that the only person whose approval she cared about didn't give her. At least that she had to learn it and that it wasn't enough. So the top comment on this one, You're in My Bubble, says, dude, your pencil is not sharp at all. You really could have changed the way you said that to her. I had a type back then, but one look at you and that type was broken. You were the most amazing woman I had ever met. You were different than every other woman in the best way possible. You could have also said, you fall in like with looks. You fall in love with the person they are. Your wife is struggling and you keep putting your foot in your mouth. Red reply saying, he's so painfully honest in the worst and most stupid way ever. And you know, honesty is a good thing. But reading that cue, it was obvious what your wife wanted to hear in that moment, and you just didn't say it. I was like, oh my God. Bro, just tell her that she's the most beautiful woman to you in the whole world, and you wouldn't change that for a second. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. And our next story comes from a deleted user from the Am I the Arsehole here subreddit. And before we do get into the story, I just want to mention there is talk of dementia within the story. So if you do want to skip it, please feel free to do so. Timestamps are down in the description and along the timeline below. Thank you. And it's titled, Am I the Arsehole for breaking up with my fiance due to my mother? So this situation is just fucked all around. So me, 26 male, and my now ex-fiance, 27 female, have been dating for a little over 4 years when I asked her to marry and she said yes. Now, here's the problem. As we were planning about the new house we were going to buy, I talked to her about a room for my mother, 60s female, as she'd live with us after we got married. I had discussed with her a lot of times when dating that my mum would live with us because, simply put, I'm an only child and my mum raised me as a single mother after she divorced my father. Abuse. She never had a new boyfriend, nor did she ever remarry. Her entire life was dedicated to raising me alone, and also me and my mum are each other's only living relatives. We have no family besides each other. My fiance said that she did not want my mother living with us. When I asked about why, she didn't say anything. When we were dating, she said that she thought I'd get over it and we could put her in a home, and this I absolutely refused. I was furious because my mum had always treated her as her own daughter and had never been one of those crazy mother-in-laws that are rude and evil. I gave out an ultimatum that if my mother couldn't live with us, we wouldn't get married, and yeah, we broke up. Now her side of the family and her friends are calling me an arsehole, but I don't think I did anything wrong since I made it clear when we were dating that my mother would live with us. So, am I the arsehole? Edit. I should have mentioned, but our family has a history of dementia settling in around the early 60s. My mother has started to show signs of forgetfulness. That's why I want to keep her as close as possible. Edit 2, I will be the primary caregiver. She has plenty of savings to cover the cost of her treatment and 2 apartments in her name. One she currently lives and one we have put on rent. After moving her in with me, I will sell one of them and will hire a full-time nurse after her dementia starts getting worse. We were never planning on having children, nor did I ever expect her to quit her job or stay at home to take care of my mother. I understand that it'd be tough and it should be majorly my responsibility, but she raised me through tough times all on her own, and I will not turn my back on her now that it's my time to help her. My mother has only recently started showing signs of dementia. Up until a few years ago, she was doing just fine, but now her health is slowly starting to deteriorate. We are independently wealthy due to my mother founding and then selling her own company. Money will not be an issue, and I can easily hire help. Edit 3, you are all correct, but my mother is living with us is never the only option I suggested. I understand that what I had was a big ask, so I was ready to buy a 2-story home or something like that, but she just wanted to put her in a home and be done with it. So in the comments there was a couple of questions to OP. Katrina Ballerina says, I'm confused. Is your mother currently living with you? Assuming she doesn't, what difference does it make if she can currently care for herself? How far away is or will be your house from hers? She could easily come over to care for your child or vice versa. You honestly sound like you put your mum as a priority over anyone else. OB says she currently lives in an apartment about an hour away from where I work. She can take care of herself, but only through basic things, and cannot drive anymore since our family has a history of dementia starting around lower 60s, and I want to keep her close by. Not a Cranky Panda says, do you want a fiance or free nurse? Only it sounds like the latter. I don't usually edit my post, but I forgot to add this. It's odd that OP only wants his mum to move in after he is married, and not before if she needs that much help. OP says I take care of my mother as much as possible. I don't expect her to stay home and cater to my mother's wishes, as she has her own job and life, but I cannot let my elderly mother live alone either. Now, I think I can understand kind of both sides in this situation. You want to care, you want to look after your parents, and you want the best for them in the elderly age, especially if they're going to start going through dementia in this particular case. And that they talked about that they started dating 4 years ago. So ex-fiance at the time was what, 23-ish? And OP mentions to her that, oh, one day my mother's going to be living with us. I kind of feel, and I'm just presuming that it was one of those comments and you sort of go like, yeah, okay, whatever kind of thing. But when the reality starts hitting in that you're going to have like another adult living with you, especially one that's going to require quite a bit of care, and regardless of OP gets nurses or whatever, it's going to have an effect on your life as well, especially as OP is going to be the primary caregiver. It's a lot. And I'm not sure if I'm quite on like the last thing that OP said about, she just wanted to put her in a home and be done with it. That sounds very sort of negative in a way, doesn't it? Just chuck her in a home, and just forget about her kind of thing. Was it actually like that? And I sort of wonder if OP has really thought about the care home thing. This is not for all care homes, obviously. This is just ones that, from experience, where I've seen people I know who's gone to a particular care home as they got older. And it was like an assisted living. They had their own apartment within this building, their own stuff, their own TV, and they just got checked on throughout the day. Meds helped, all that sort of stuff. The everyday care things that needed to happen. And once again, I'm not saying about all care homes because I didn't know about all of them. You see some horror stories sometimes, don't you? But this particular one is absolutely well cared for. Family visiting pretty much every day, different family members, and they enjoyed the end of their life there. Again, I can't say for the mother in this situation. She might absolutely hate it, but I can't call OP an arsehole for wanting to take care of his mum. And I can't call the fiance or ex-fiance for questioning everything that's going forward, because it's a massive change in your life. And there's so much stuff that can happen with like caregiver burnout, which will have an effect on your relationship, will affect your life. But my initial thought is, if money isn't an issue, if you're getting a house, couldn't you have like some sort of like, I don't know, they call them granny flats or something, like in the garden, or so she's not directly in the house, but she's close by. You can just pop across and do what you need to do. But OP came in with an update and says, so I talked with my mother about the wedding being cancelled and why it was happening, and got a very tight slap across my face. My mother was disappointed with the idea of my ultimatum, and she felt that I was reducing her down to burden when she wasn't one just yet. It was already stated that she'd come live with me when I got married. It was not the way my mother expected me to handle the situation. In her words, I'd just be throwing her hard-earned money in a pit because of my own selfishness, and that she did not raise me to be this inconsiderate of my SO. She explained things to me and showed me my fiance's perspective in a much clearer light. She said she did want and expect to live with us, but not for forever, and not that soon after I got married. She also said that she would rather go into a specialized care home where the professionals could handle her, so should her illness get worse and changes who she is. I contacted my fiance and we talked, and it was all pretty emotional, but it was all for the better. I apologized for my ultimatum and not seeing her perspective better, and she apologized for what she said and that she was wrong for saying that we could put her in a home. She knew how much my mother meant to me, so she admitted that her insinuating we could just drop her in a home was wrong. I was stupid and naive and could not see beyond my own ideas for our future, which is the worst thing I could have done, especially considering my life is going more than just my own from now. We decided that it's best to buy a house and move my mother in with us, at least for the time being, so we can still spend some time with her while she's somewhat healthy. And when the time comes, when taking care of her is beyond us, we will put her in a specialized care unit for people with dementia close to our home, so we can still visit her, as my mother wants. Though we're still looking into the exact details of this plan, we are both coming out of this as better partners for each other, though this may take a bit of time. We've also decided to hold off the wedding and first try to be better partners first, but we are still engaged. Also, we'll be going on a trip around the world soon, so we can live our life as a couple a bit before my mother moves in. I know there'll be challenges, and I know I'm not prepared to handle everything, but more than anything, if I won't be able to take care of my mother in her final moments, then I at least want to spend some time with her while she's still herself. My mother's diagnosis will be next week. I'm hoping that she's just being forgetful due to her age, but if it's that damned illness, then the possible amount of time with my mother is considerably shortened. Thank you for all your comments. I hope such a situation never comes to any of you. First, I don't want to say like your mum twatting you around the face is a good thing because it's always seen as a negative, smacking someone. But fair play to your mum in this situation. I was thinking when I was giving my last, waffling on comment, and I was reluctant to say it because it always feels like, oh, I do this, so you should do it as well. And I never mean it like that. But I know for myself, when I get older or whatever, and if I get some sort of illness or anything like that, I'm very much, put me in the place where there's specialized care or whatever, and don't be stressing about me, And I know family do it. Hell, we did it for my dad. We wanted him to be home, and we tried to make his last days as good as possible. We'll be around him, talk to him all the time, take him, change him, everything that we needed to do. But for me, just put me in that place where there is the specialized care, I really don't want family, having to go through caregiving. They may choose to do so, but I just want my family to be happy, live their life the best way that they can. Which I know, as always, is very easy for me to say, sat behind a microphone. I just want to read out this top comment from Soggy Milk, who says, OP, I say this as a compliment. Your mum is a badass, and I want to be like her when I grow up. She's tough, resilient, loving, wise, and she sounds like the kind of mum who means it. She says she wants her children to be happy. That last point is something that a lot of parents say, but a lot of them also attach strings to it. For example, I just want my kids to be happy as long as they become a lawyer, a surgeon, or a broker in real estate or finances. I just want my kids to be happy as long as they marry someone who meets my standards because I know what's best for my children. I'm so glad that you're able to really take in what your mum said about your fiance's perspective, and that both of you were able to set aside your hurt feelings and pride so that you could have a really open, honest, and vulnerable conversation. I would suggest couples counseling because it can help you both learn how to better communicate with each other and learn to develop compromises that truly meet each of your needs without resentment. People grow and evolve over time, so marriage or really any relationship takes a lot of work, and a lot of people wait until there's a problem to get counseling. But if you think of it as maintenance to keep it going smoothly, it can help you prevent issues from snowballing into that big problem. It sounds like you guys have a stable foundation when you communicate openly, so counseling can help you strengthen it and build upon it. Enjoy this time with your mum and with your fiance. There's no rush to get married. You've already committed to each other. Just focus on keeping those relationships happy and healthy. And I'm not meaning to bring the mood down or anything, but I had a question the other day in emails, and I'm just going on waffling, so you can leave the video now if you choose to do so, of course. But I had a question about my dad and how I deal with grief and sort of how we as a family dealt with caregiving, etc. How we dealt with it, like since he got his illness, how we dealt with it all, and how I felt at the end. And I've said it before in other videos, and in some ways I feel a bit guilty the way I felt about it, but it was relief. I felt relief when my dad died. And I'm bringing it up now because it's sort of like the anniversary of his death, coming up on the 25th of March. And do you know what the ironic thing about that is? That's International Waffle Day. Ain't that mad? My mum died on Star Wars Day. My dad dies on International Waffle Day. But yeah, back to it. Caregiving is brutal. My heart goes out to anyone that's in that situation. We was lucky that we got like a very supportive family and many people that was getting involved in my dad's care. Mainly my niece. She lives quite close by to him, and she was around there every morning, like before she went to work, like 5-6 o'clock in the morning, helping him with various, like, get changed, because that's what it was towards the end. And I mentioned relief. I have to say it. He had no quality of life towards the end. He pretty much deteriorated. He had no strength in his legs. The meds he was on was sending him all over the place, really. There was once I was talking to him. I chuckled at the time because it was absolutely mad. I was stood to the side of his bed just chatting away to him, and he went, "Mark, there's a plane coming towards the window." And I was like, "What the?" I was panicking. I was like, "What?" It was just the meds he was on. He wasn't there most of the time towards the end. And you'd feel guilty for thinking it, and you just hope that it comes around quick for him. I'd have done anything to keep him around with us, but it was terminal. You can only hope for the least suffering is possible. And in terms of grief, like my mum, I already done my grieving way before my dad passed away. From the first moment we went to the doctors and he was told basically after a biopsy and stuff that he's got 9 months to live, I grieved for months. But at the same time, you have to push through because he needed constant hospital checks, lung drains, all sorts of stuff. Would I say I'm over grief? Absolutely not. Year on year, it's coming up to that time again of the year where, your thoughts, even unconscious thoughts, go towards your dad. I wake up in the middle of the night thinking about him, etc. But I always think from their perspective, my mum's perspective, especially my mum's words. She says, don't you be crying over me or anything like that. You just go and live your life, be happy, etc. If I catch you grieving, I'm going to haunt you. That's just kind of the attitude that she had. And my dad was very chill with the same kind of attitude. He wouldn't want his family, to be at home crying about him, stressing about him, etc. He'd want us to be living our life the best way we can. And I would hope that many family members would wish the same for anyone going through something like that. But we're all different people. We all grieve in different ways, like we say, and there's no wrong way to grieve as long as you do it in a healthy way. But if you ever want to, talk about what you're going through or whatever, you know where I am. But anyway, I've talked enough shit for today. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, your time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for getting involved, and I will see you in the next one. Take care and much love.